Hi there, welcome back to my channel. I am Amagati, your family life coach. Anyway, welcome back to my channel. I hope that parenting is going a little easier for you now that we are in community together. I recently came across a video. You know how you scroll through Facebook or Instagram and you get into this rabbit hole of videos? Well, I got trapped in one of those rabbit holes recently and I came across a video that really stood out to me because it was a conversation between, I think there were three or four gentlemen on this platform, on this podcast, it seems like, and they were discussing some challenges they've had growing up as children of immigrants in a foreign country. It sounded from the accent that they were in England, I think. But it was one story that this gentleman was sharing with his struggle with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. And he struggled with this disorder his entire life. But then he shares a story about how, as a child, the teachers mentioned to the parents that something was off. He was struggling being still and paying attention in class and doing well academically. And he continues to share the story about how his parents completely ignored what the teacher said, did not seek help for him. In fact, when he would get home and act out, his parents would beat him up and say prayers and hoping that the beatings and the prayers was set him straight. And so he shared that, and he talked about how in his final year in high school, secondary school, he had a teacher who took keen interest in him, and the teacher secretly was getting him help. And the teacher would let him go into the gym, I think, and go into a boxing ring with her husband. The teacher would let her husband come to class and to school and work out with this boy just to burn out some energy. And the teacher took interest anyway in helping this boy out. And eventually this boy ended up going to college. And so in college, he was an adult now and didn't need parental consent to get the treatments he needed. And now he's doing okay because he finally got the treatment. And I'm watching this, and it sounded to me that there is a need for us, especially migrant parents, to begin to pay attention to some of these things because they are not common where we come from, right? So I always use myself as an example. In Ghana, I mean, things like that are not common, right? And so what we tend to do is we tend to spiritualize everything, especially mental health issues. We tend to spiritualize it. And so we are hoping and praying that it would go away, whatever this mental health issue is that our children could be suffering from. I'm just on here today to say that it doesn't hurt to seek help, especially if our children are struggling. I was in the classroom for a while teaching, and so sometimes I think teachers see and recognize certain things because they're trained to look out for these things as well. Sometimes even before parents do. So please, if your teacher says something, I'm not saying that everything they say is right, but if there could be something there that needs your attention, look for help, talk to somebody. Especially mental health is nothing to be embarrassed about. I keep telling people all the time, if you have a headache, you will take something for it, right? If you have pain in your body, you go see a doctor. So if you have pain or if you have something going on with your brain, why would we not seek help for that as well? Because our brain is part of our body. And sometimes there are chemical imbalances and things that makes us go away from what is considered the norm, right? And so if your child is beginning to exhibit certain behaviors or traits and you're like, "Ooh, I don't know what this is," it doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to seek help. But when we have to spiritualize it and beat it out of the child, it does not serve that child well. I wonder, this young man in this video, how he would have thrived and done well in school if the parents had heed advice and actually went out seeking help for him. I also am a firm believer and spiritual, and so I also know the power of prayer. But we do watch and pray, right? So seek help if you need to, talk to someone if you need to. Some of these things are not common where we come from. And now I'm speaking for my African brothers and sisters, especially. These things are not common where we come from. But now that we live in a foreign culture, we are finding our children exhibiting sometimes things that are not common to our culture or was completely overlooked in our culture. Not everything should be beating out of your child, because beating doesn't solve the problem. And if you've watched my previous video about punishment versus discipline, right, we talked about how punishment doesn't solve the problem because it always looks back. And so you want to ask questions. If something is off, if you notice something is a little different from your other friends' kids, or if the teacher has suggested something, or the teacher has said something, there's no harm in looking. There's no harm in checking. I'm also not saying we should over medicate our children or anything like that, but we need to seek help when help is needed. If you're not sure of something, bring it up when you take your child to the doctor's appointment, or if you are talking to other friends and you realize, ooh, maybe something might be off, right? There's no harm in seeking help and giving help when your child needs it. We don't need to wait for our children to become adults or have a teacher secretly help your child when you are completely hands off and thinking, oh, we're going to beat it out of you, we're going to pray it out of you. Seek help when you need help. Talk to parents. See where your child is. Are they developmentally where they should be? And as parents, we know, especially as mothers, we know when something is off even before the doctor says it. And so please talk to someone today. I feel so bad for this young man having to wait for a teacher to secretly help him at school, to help him thrive. And then also to seek help for himself now as an adult, because his parents would beat him up and not seek the help he needs. Let us not be those parents. Our job, and if you've watched my previous videos, I have described our job as parents. Our job is to provide the resources our children need to thrive and survive in the environment they're growing in. Not in your world, in their world. So seek help. Talk to parents. Find like-minded friends and find out what's going on. I'm not saying you should compare your children, but if you're not sure developmentally where your child is, see if there's some help that you can get for your child. There's no reason why your child should suffer in silence, and there's no reason why you should be quiet because you're worried about what people would think of you. Get help for your child if it's needed. Anyway, so I'm going to end here. I hope that something I've said has got you thinking about your children and providing the help they need, if in fact they do need help. All right. And so let me know what you think. Put a comment down, and also look in the description. I'll see if I can find the video and link it in there. And let me know your thoughts after watching that video. I'd like to hear from you. All right. Until next time. Again, I am Amagati. I am your family life coach. Let's do parenting together.